Imagine this. You're sitting in a small, cozy kitchen. Not a big fancy one, just the kind that feels like home. Small enough for two people to sit close enough to feel each other's warmth. A soft yellow light hangs low, glowing gently, as if it knows it must be careful not to shine too brightly on the cracks that have slowly appeared. On the old wooden table, worn smooth by years of shared meals, the scent of iced milk coffee still lingers. That familiar smell of evenings that repeat themselves, not exactly happy, not exactly sad, just familiar in a way that quietly aches in a woman's heart. Outside the window, rain falls softly, not a wild, dramatic storm, but the gentle kind you barely notice at first, yet it keeps falling long enough to slowly soak into every hidden corner of your soul. Drip, drip. It sounds like someone whispering a quiet, aching story, the kind so many of us women have carried, but no one ever stayed long enough to hear it all the way through. The man you love is sitting just an arm's length away, close enough that you could reach out and touch him, close enough that you could rest your head on his shoulder, the way you did in the very beginning. And yet, that small distance feels wider than any ocean, farther than the stars you once dreamed of watching together on warm summer nights when love still felt endless. She still smiles, a smile so familiar and practiced that anyone looking at her would think, "She's fine. Look how happy she is." She still asks, in the gentlest voice she can find inside herself, "Have you eaten yet, love? Should I make you some chicken porridge? The way you like it? Hot and comforting?" She still folds the blankets every morning, carefully smoothing every crease. She still mops the floor every afternoon, as if she's quietly wiping away the sadness she can't name. She still whispers, "I love you" every single night, like a line she has memorized by heart, before turning off the light and turning her back toward a sleep that feels lonelier than being alone. But if you look really closely into her eyes, you will see a sky that has been dark for a very, very long time. No light left. No tiny stars of hope flickering anymore. Only an endless, heavy stillness. And a loneliness so deep that even she no longer knows what to call it. It's the special kind of loneliness only a woman knows. The kind we hide behind warm meals, behind "I'm okay," really, behind the perfect smile we give the world. The story I want to share with you tonight is not about a loud, dramatic breakup. There are no rivers of uncontrollable tears, no suitcases dragged across the floor. No cruel words thrown like knives. It is not the familiar sentence, "I'm leaving." No, this is the story of women who never leave. They stay. They keep cooking every single day, remembering exactly how he likes his food, salty or mild, spicy or gentle. They keep holding him every night, Even as their own arms feel emptier and emptier, they are still called the wonderful woman by their friends. They are still the perfect wife in the eyes of both families. But they have disappeared, not by walking out the door, but by vanishing while still standing right there, quietly, gently, and without anyone, not even him, ever noticing. Tonight, I want to take you, my sisters, deep into her journey, a journey that millions of women around the world, whether in Hanoi, New York, Paris, or Tokyo, have walked or are walking right now. My dear sisters, have you ever sat right next to the person you love most in this world and still felt completely, achingly alone? Have you ever smiled while your heart was quietly crying? If you have, then this story is for you. This story is for all of us. I used to explain everything. I explained so many times that now I can't even count them anymore. I explained that when he forgot my birthday for the second year in a row, I wasn't angry about the missing roses or the cake with glowing candles. I was hurting because all day long I waited. I hoped. I imagined the moment he would pull me close, kiss my forehead, and whisper, "Happy birthday to the most important woman in my life." But instead, he came home, dropped onto the sofa like any ordinary day, and said casually, softly, "Oh, I forgot. I'll make it up to you tomorrow, okay?" I sat right in front of him. I chose the gentlest, softest voice I still had left. "I don't need any gift, my love. I just need you to remember that today is the day I was born, to become an important part of your life. I just need to feel that somewhere between the endless work, the friends, the late-night football matches, there is still a tiny corner, a small safe space where I exist in your heart and in your mind." He nodded, and once again, I believed him. I explained again on another night, the night I came home completely exhausted after a long, hard day. My body was aching. My mind was empty. I didn't need advice. I didn't need solutions. I only needed him to hold me tightly and whisper, "You worked so hard today. I'm here with you." Instead, he opened his laptop and asked while typing, "What do you want to eat? I'll order delivery." I wrote messages so long they filled 3 whole pages. I edited them 5 times. I deleted and rewrote them again and again, because I was terrified that if I sounded even a little bit sad, I would be labeled too sensitive, too difficult. I told him about the thoughts that stayed in my head for hours, about the quiet fear of being forgotten, about the small, simple needs, just one real hug, one genuine "how are you feeling," that I believed, if he truly understood them, would make him love me more. I truly believed that, if I spoke gently enough, clearly enough, patiently enough, love would finally understand. I thought love meant never-ending effort. It meant saying the same thing over and over, It meant believing that people would change if you just explained it enough times. I tried like a woman watering a dry garden in the middle of a burning desert. Every single word was a precious drop of water from my heart. I poured, I poured, I poured, until my hands trembled, my throat was dry, my eyes stung with tears I refused to let fall, and still the ground stayed cracked. Not one flower bloomed. My sisters, have you ever felt like you were loving someone with your whole heart and every word you had? Yet watching that love slowly wither away, day after day, he heard every word I said. At least, I used to think he did. He nodded. He looked at me. He said, "Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry. Next time will be different, don't worry." Those sentences became so familiar. I could predict them in order. Apology first, promise second, and then everything quietly returned to exactly the way it was before. He heard me, but he never truly listened. Because listening is not just sound entering the ears. Listening is when someone's words reach the other person's heart. It is when my sadness becomes something that stays on his mind, not something he gently pushes away just to end the conversation. Some nights I sat so close to him. I could feel the warmth of his breath on my skin. Tears rolled silently down my cheeks. I told him about the suffocating loneliness of sharing the same roof, the same bed, yet feeling like a stranger in my own home. He nodded while scrolling on his phone. Sometimes he looked up for just a second. "Why are you crying?" "Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll come home earlier tomorrow, okay?" And then, instantly, he changed the subject as if nothing had happened. "Who's playing football today? Let me watch for a bit." I stayed quiet. I swallowed my tears, and I believed again. Every single time I believed, not because I was naive, but because hope in a woman's heart is very, very quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It doesn't rush. It simply stands there and waits, like a little girl standing in front of her house on a cold, rainy night, holding a fragile paper umbrella, waiting for her mother to come home, even though her mother has broken that promise many times. Even though the rain is getting heavier, even though the umbrella tore long ago, she still waits, because she believes. And then, one day, I noticed something strange inside me. I stopped repeating the same old words, not because I had forgotten them, but because I remembered them too clearly, so clearly that I no longer had the heart to say them one more time. I stopped asking, "Why are you like this? Why don't you care about me? Why am I always the one who has to explain everything?" I also stopped waiting for any answer. It wasn't because things had become better. It was because I had quietly begun to prepare myself for the loneliness that was coming. I remember that day so vividly. It was our 3rd anniversary. Not a huge number, but long enough for me to believe I deserved to be cherished just a little more. He came home very late, and he forgot. He forgot even the bouquet of flowers I had once told him were my favorite. All week I had prepared hundreds of gentle words in my head, words not to blame, but to hold on. But when he opened the door and stepped inside, when I saw the tired look on his face, all those words simply melted away like morning mist. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was just empty. I smiled, that same familiar smile. I said softly, "You're home? Let me warm up some soup for you." And I fell silent. For the first time in many years, I chose silence. Not because I was angry, but because I was so deeply tired that I no longer had the strength to feel anger anymore. I didn't leave. I stayed. Every morning at exactly 5:30, I still woke up quietly, stepping out of bed so carefully so I wouldn't wake him. I cooked chicken porridge, letting the warm, comforting aroma rise. The same smell he once said brought him peace just by breathing it in. I still washed his white shirts with care. I ironed them perfectly smooth, down to the tiniest crease. I still asked with a bright smile, "How was your day, love?" I still lay beside him every single night, letting him hold me in his warm arms. Those arms were still warm, but my heart had already left. From the outside, everything still looked perfect. Friends said, "What a beautiful, ideal couple." His family proudly told everyone, "She's such a rare, wonderful daughter-in-law, so caring and gentle." She would Contella softens. No one knew that inside me, everything had quietly collapsed long ago. I had become a woman who no longer needed to be understood, not because I had suddenly become stronger, but because needing to be understood had already hurt me too much for too long. I cooked his favorite dish. He said, "It's so delicious, honey." I only nodded. My heart didn't flutter anymore. I listened to him talk about work, but I no longer asked deeper questions. I no longer comforted him with my whole heart. I no longer shared my own feelings. I still kissed him goodnight, but that kiss no longer carried the sweet taste of love. It had become only the cold weight of habit. I stayed, but I had disappeared, like a gentle ghost, quietly living inside my own home. Then I understood something that very few people dare to say out loud. There are women who never leave a relationship. They simply stop being present in it with their hearts and their emotions. They still do everything a loving partner and wife is supposed to do. They still care, still sacrifice, still smile, but their hearts have quietly moved to another planet, a quiet place that belongs only to them, a place of peace, freedom, and self-love. Their silence is not weakness. It is the last, most tender way they know how to protect themselves. The only way left when every word has already been spoken and unheard. Because if they kept talking, kept hoping, kept waiting, they would break into 1,000 pieces. So they choose to survive. Even if surviving means staying in a relationship that no longer has a soul, even if it means carrying a heart that has learned to stay silent. My dear sisters, if you ever meet a woman who no longer explains herself, who no longer argues, who no longer cries over the small things, please don't rush to judge her. She is not cold. She is not selfish. She has not stopped loving. She has simply already said everything, and no one ever truly listened. Some women don't leave. They just slowly fade away in the quietest, most graceful way possible, fading like an old favorite shirt left too long under the sun, fading like laughter that no longer rises from the heart, fading like a candle flame that gently blows itself out so the wind can no longer hurt it. If you are that woman right now, I want to hold you gently and tell you this. You are not alone, my sister. You deserve to be truly heard and truly loved. Even if today you must begin by listening to yourself first. You deserve a love that doesn't require you to try so hard. A love that sees you, cherishes you, without you having to explain your heart over and over. You are worthy of softness, of peace, of being chosen every single day. And if you are the one who is unknowingly causing someone you love to fade, please pause, just for 1 second. Listen. Really listen with your whole heart before it's too late, before she is still sitting right beside you, but has already gone very, very far away. Thank you, my sisters, for listening to her story, for listening to my story, for listening to the story of so many of us. We women, we are strong. We always find our way back to our own light. We always heal. We always rise. This English version keeps every beautiful detail, every tender feeling, and every sisterly warmth from the Vietnamese story. It is longer, deeper, and even more touching for women listeners. You can tell it exactly as written. When you finish, you can say softly, "And that is the story I wanted to share with all of you tonight, from my heart to yours." Thank you for staying until this very moment. Thank you for listening to this story, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Perhaps somewhere in this story, you saw yourself. Or perhaps you saw a woman you once loved, once knew, or unknowingly hurt. This story is not meant to blame anyone. It simply reminds us of something gentle, yet deeply important. Silence is not always peace. Sometimes, silence is the final sign. Before a heart quietly disappears, love is not about merely hearing, but about truly listening. Listening to understand, listening to stay, listening before it's too late. And to the women who are slowly growing quiet, please remember this. You are not weak. You have simply been strong for too long. If today you take one lesson from this story, let it begin with something small. Listen to yourself. And if you still can, listen to the person sitting right beside you. with your whole heart. Once again, thank you for listening. Her story, my story, and perhaps the story of so many of us. Until we meet again in the next story.